Phil Bowdry, perhaps I could start with you. Live Nation has built itself into quite a significant business now. How much market power would you say the company has here in the United Kingdom?
Good afternoon. We have as much power, I guess, as our competitors that have built themselves in the same manner.
So if we think about, let's say, the event promotion business, and if we look at that particular part of the market, which is focused on those high capacity venues and those big acts, in the UK, do you think you've got substantial market power in that segment?
No, we have an equal power as our competitors. We also do very small venues as well, of course, not just the major arenas or stadiums. We are effective in the clubs as well.
So when the committee staff looked through 100 of the biggest events in that particular market segment, it looked like that Live Nation was basically marketing or promoting about 2/3 of those events. Would you say that that is substantial market power?
I don't recognise that figure, actually. I'm not sure that we are promoting 2/3 of the shows that are going on.
Okay. Well, look, let's look at this analysis, if we could just put it up on the slide. So this is an analysis of arena and stadium tickets on sale in 2025. So I think this is an analysis of about 23 million tickets that are being marketed this year. And it looks like that Live Nation Entertainment is promoting or marketing about 66% of the tickets in that space. Do you think that that indicates substantial market power?
You're not counting the other theatres and other smaller venues so that you could get a broader brush. We certainly are very good at what we do, and therefore we would do, or we have clients that are doing stadiums and arenas, but we also do a lot of clubs as well.
But if we just looked at that particular market segment, which is arenas and stadia, these are the big and often very expensive acts, it does look like you've got a very significant market share of that particular market. And so I'm just interested in your observation as to whether you think that that constitutes a significant market power or not.
I think we're very good at what we do, and therefore there is interest from the major artists to actually be with Live Nation.
But does that mean that the market power that you've got through, as you say, success, but also predominance in this market, that may give you, for example, the market power to begin influencing prices on a sustainable and durable basis?
I do not see us as being dominant. We have a lot of competitors, and it's a very low margin business that we run. Globally, we're at about 3% margin.
But you don't think that 2/3 market share is dominant?
I'm not sure where these figures have come from.
These come from an analysis of 23 million tickets which are on sale this year.
There's like a lot of tickets as well.
Yeah. But you're marketing 2/3 of them.
I'd like to see where they are, but I can't comment on. It's not my vision that we are 66%. We have a lot of competitors.
Okay. When we look at venues, obviously your business has succeeded in building up a network both in the promotions business but also in venues as well as ticketing, which we'll come back to. How do you think about your business's market share of, say, for example, major venues, either venues that you own directly or you might have exclusive marketing rights with? How do you think about that?
We don't own any major venues. We don't own any stadiums. We have one arena in the UK, and that's one of the smaller versions. And we have theatres and concert halls.
But there are venues that Live Nation owns UK. So through Academy Music Group, you operate 18 venues, including venues like O2 Academy, Bristol, Motorpoint Arena, Victoria Warehouse. So some of these venues are quite significant. So I'm just interested in how do you think about the kind of market share that your venues
significant
have?
In capacity or significant in their position in the city?
Well, I'm interested in how you think about the venues market and Live Nation's market share in that market.
Well, there will be attractions, artists and singers that would fit into some of those venues better and wouldn't be able to move into the bigger venues unless they grow as they do. So it's not a case of what do we do with those venues. If it's the best venue for the artist, then that's where she will perform.
But if you think about, there's not an infinite number of very, very big venues in the UK, and it could well be that your shareholders in the United States are saying to you, well, look, you ought to be growing your market share, you ought to be growing your control over those venues because that brings some commercial advantages. So I'm just interested, you don't have an analysis of the arena market, and you don't have a number for...
I know how many, there's approximately 15 arenas in the country. We own but one.
And do you have exclusive marketing arrangements with any of the other 14?
No.
Okay. And then when we look at ticketing, I think the last data that we had in public was from the Competition Commission back in 2010, Mr. Parsons, who found that Ticketmaster's share of the UK market for primary retailing of live music tickets was about 40 to 50%. Do you have a sense of what that figure is today?
Unfortunately not. It's notoriously difficult to be able to get a realistic and accurate position, simply because most of the main competitors just don't publish their figures. So it would be, I would be clutching at straws and would not be able to give you an accurate representation of what that would be. What I would say, just on the basis, we were just talking about arenas at the moment, and I understand why that would be an area of focus, given that they are such a significant, they can be seen as a significant part of the business. And of the 15 arenas, which are considered to be the main, established touring buildings, they're 10,000 capacity and above, we provide ticketing services to 5 of those. So, as I say, difficult to be able to give you any sort of percentage-like share, though I understand I understand the question and the need, and the ask. But I think that's probably the best way that I could articulate how I see our sort of position, which is that it's very competitive. I've been with the business in the industry for some 25 plus years. I do think the UK ticketing market is as competitive as anywhere in the world. And we see that every day. We have great teams, we invest in technology, resources to be able to compete every day. But it is just that we're competing for business. Successful sometimes not.
And can I just check, do you have a number on what fraction of the tickets that you sell relate to events which are promoted by Live Nation?
I do, actually. That number I do have. It's within our own sphere, if you like. And 60% of events and tickets are for non-Live Nation businesses, i.e. effectively competitors to Live Nation, if you want to think about it in those terms. And I do think that, to me anyway, represents one of the clearest examples of a well-functioning and competitive marketplace, and us having to be good at what we do. We have to establish a lot of trust within the business for that to be able to be the case. And people outside of that Live Nation business are working with us on merit, on the basis of being able to deliver the best services and in support of their shows and in support of their fans.
Okay, so we haven't got market share data for ticketing, we haven't got market share data for ownership of big capacity arena or stadia. We have got some data that appears to show that about 2/3 of promotions are going through Live Nation. But do you think we have any other data available to you when you're judging your performance on how you're growing your market share in the UK.
From a ticketing perspective,
yeah,
I think that for us, obviously one of the, some of the big prizes are the arenas, and we would look at that with some disappointment as that stands at the moment. I think some of this is cyclical, and we'd hope to be able to win some of those again in the future. I do think it's useful to look, important to consider the ticketing sector as a whole, and as opposed to sort of a single genre or a single type. There are areas of the business where we're very much a challenger brand, if you sort of forgive the expression, if you sort of understand the expression. We're trying to be able to break through across sort of West End and theatre. Clubs business is incredibly competitive, and we work hard to be able to compete in those spaces every day with the right technology, right marketing abilities to be able to compete.
Okay, let's turn to pricing. Mr. Charlie Maynard.
Well, I'm going to keep running if it's okay with this.
So
I've got, as I understand it, Live Nation Entertainment's got 4 divisions. So ticketing, Ticketmaster, you've got more than 60% according to The Guardian. Competition Commission 15 years ago had you at 50%. Festivals and venues, 25% according to the Associate of Independent Festivals. In venues, 18 are 100% owned or part owned, 51% of Academy management as well. Then in the Artist Nation management, you've got 500 artists. You're big, but not maybe dominant there. And in event promotions, more than 2/3 of the largest capacity venues, which is 35,000 to 90,000 live music events. You've got 2,500 of those shows versus your nearest competitor at 1,071 last year. So you add those things together, and it looks like very substantial market share and dominance. And it's about the synergies between all of these things wrapping around the industry and wrapping around the consumer. And that's what's going on here, and that's what we've got a big problem with. And I just want to understand where I've got those facts wrong.
Specifically on the ticketing piece, as I mentioned before, I don't recognise,
primary concert ticketing, not 60%. What about the Competition Commission? That was 15 years ago. They had you at 50%. You don't recognise that?
And as I say, I think, as I mentioned earlier, I think that the market is incredibly competitive, and I would argue it's significantly more competitive even now than it was back then. I couldn't confirm or deny that number.
Sorry, just on that. So Competition Commission, that's part of the government. They said you had more than 50% in 2010. You think that you don't recognise that? You've never heard of that before?
I'm not familiar with that number, no. But and what I am saying is that yes, that the market, in my view, is more competitive now than it was then.
So the Guardian is saying 60% of primary concert ticketing. You're just saying not true.
Yes, I am. I don't see. I see huge growth. I'll return to the arena point because I think I risk of repeating myself because it is significant. That's a huge part of the market that we're talking about here, and we only have a small piece of it.
You're wanting to take us down that rabbit hole, but essentially what I think our point is you're wrapping yourself around the consumer every which way, whether it's ticketing, whether it's festivals and venues, whether it's management of artists, or whether it's event promotions. Essentially, it's the octopus. That's what's going on here, and that's what we are worried about.
Understood. I think I look at our business and how we operate and the margins that we're able to work across. That is the clearest set of evidence to me that the market is competitive. If I look at our fees for last year, the fees averaged around 11.1%. As a per ticket fee within the UK. If you look at other online marketplaces, like for instance,
lots of ways to make money apart from the ticket, isn't there?
Sorry?
There's lots of ways to make money apart from the ticket. You've got all sorts of ways of making money here.
Absolutely, I don't disagree, and I think there are many examples of vertically integrated businesses that we are very much one. Many businesses that are operating off of small and thin margins, as ours do. Ours operates off of you take that 11.1%, the actual take rate. I don't know if the piece which actually Ticketmaster is retaining, as an example, after the share with the either the event organizer or with credit cards is around about 3%. If we look at that same number from 2017, that number would have been over 4%. which again is the clearest indication to me that there is competition and that competition ensures that fees are actually very consistent over
Andrew,
a
with
lengthy period of
respect,
time.
I think you're cherry picking those points. I'll park it there because essentially what we're doing is just having.
But I think just one point to note. I mean, you'd agree that Live Nation as a business, I mean, the margins have increased by. I mean, they've more than doubled. I mean, 2018 the margins were 1.6%. 2024 they're up to 4%. I mean, that would appear to point to a business that is getting stronger in terms of its market power and its ability to strike a profit.
And that the business has been successful over that period of time is doubtless the case. And the percentage that I'm more familiar with that we can follow up with is 3% as a typical margin. But so I wouldn't be able to comment further than that.
Well, is that margin moving up or down over the last 4 or 5 years?
As I said, I only have the details related to the Ticketmaster business, and there I've got evidence that we've been able to highlight that shows that it has gone down since 2017, where it was on average 4.1%, and it's gone down to nearer 3%.
Okay. Any more, Mr. Maynard, on that? No? Mr. Weston.
Just coming back to this kind of market power that Ticketmaster and Live Nation enjoy, I was interested to see that in the United States, that Ticketmaster has been alleged by the US Department of Justice as controlling 80% or more of major concert venues' primary ticketing for concerts. In Ireland, I see that Ticketmaster holds between 70, 80, 90% of live music ticketing in that country. Do you foresee that in the UK you could be reaching those sorts of figures? I'm presuming Michael Rapino will be looking for that kind of growth and market power here in the UK. Do you think that's a good thing for the consumer, and do you think the CMA should allow it?
I mean, I'm afraid I am going to be at the risk of repeating myself a little bit, that I do think the market has got more, not less, competitive from a ticketing standpoint. There are more players, more global players who operate on a very similar basis in terms of being vertically integrated businesses. This isn't something which is unique to Ticketmaster.
Your share's getting stronger.
Sorry?
Your share, the market's getting stronger. Your CEO will be wanting a similar sort of performance in the UK as achieving in the US and in Ireland, surely.
The business is certainly growing, and I think you can see the evidence of that every day in terms of there are more shows playing in more locations than ever before. The amount of talent coming to the UK just this summer is absolutely extraordinary. In many respects, there's just more access to a diverse range of talent than has ever been the case. And from that, as the business itself grows. We are a thin margin business. I know I'm repeating, but thin margin business that does operate successfully off of the volume that we're able to achieve. And yes, we do that successfully.
You think, coming back to my question, do you think the CMA should allow a provider, such as yourselves, that sort of significant market power?
I can't answer that question because I don't see that we have that level of.
Just in principle. In principle, should the CMA allow that?
Should the CMA allow for?
So it's obvious that the business in the United States has such significant market power that the Department for Justice has launched an investigation. And the question is, should the CMA in this country be comfortable with a similar level of concentration to that enjoyed by the business in the United States?
I don't think it would be fair for me to speak on behalf of the CMA or what would or would not be possible, and on a set of circumstances which I imagine just doesn't seem reasonable to answer.
Can I just move on? Can you explain, Phil Baldry, just how is it that your ticket prices have changed since the pandemic?
Since the pandemic, they've followed a natural inflation.
They've pegged with inflation.
Exactly, but actually, we found that in 2015, our average ticket price was £46, and in 24 it was 39, if you take inflation into account. So it's actually gone down, not gone up.
Which year was it, 39?
It was 39 in 2024.
Are you comparing like with like, or are you talking?
Yes.
If we're talking about arena and large stadium sales, what is the comparison?
It's the average price across all venues.
I'm not talking about all the venues. You could have changed the mix, couldn't you, of the venues? You could have entered into different segments. I'm just talking about comparison for a stadium or large arena.
Stadiums obviously are fixed on summer, but they haven't. Again, it's the same thought that runs through it. It's still across the average that we've taken these numbers across all of our shows, not just the smaller ones. So we are actually lower, if you take inflation into account, than we were in 2015.
What's the average price for stadium and arena?
It depends on the artist, of course.
Okay, no, but you just gave me an average price there for
yes,
all venues. So you know the price for all venues, which includes theatres and smaller venues, which I can understand.
39.
I'm asking about arenas and stadia. You must have the figure for that, surely.
No, it works because it's taken as a whole across the business. We're doing as many smaller shows as we are doing arena shows, and the stadiums are limited to the summer. So
you run a business, but you don't know what the average price is for a particular segment.
Depends on the artist. The price will change with the artist.
So you're inviting us to believe, Mr. Bowdry, that in 2025 you can't tell the committee the average price that you're promoting an event for in the stadia and arena where you're hosting those events?
Well, I did tell you that our average in 2024 was £24 overall, and 43 for arenas and 51 for stadiums was our average.
Okay, and has that number gone up or down over the last 4 or 5 years?
Well, that's for last year.
Between 43 and 51?
Yes.
Okay.
And 24 overall.
Yep. And if we went back a couple of years, have you got a figure for what it might be?
I think we'd get into COVID and obviously nothing was there. But as I said before, it was 2015 when our average was 46, and that came down to 39 in adjusted for inflation in 24.
Or the stadia and arena segment?
All shows.
Okay, we're just trying to focus on the stadia and arena though, Mr. Bowdry.
We don't just play arenas and stadiums.
We appreciate that, but you've got very clearly a very significant market position in the stadia and arena segment.
As our competitors do.
Yeah, but it looks like you've got 2/3 of that business, and we're seeking to understand...
Again, I don't recognise those figures.
Okay, well, it's an analysis of 23 million tickets, Mr. Bowdry, so it's quite a wide scope.
Maybe I'll take it up with The Guardian.
Well, I don't think that figure is from The Guardian. It's from the Association of
I thought
Live Events and Festivals.
One of your colleagues said it came from The Guardian.
There's a different figure quoted from The Guardian. Maybe we could exchange correspondence just to try and pin down precisely what that figure might look like. Okay. Let's just continue this line of questioning for a moment, however. Sarah Edwards.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so Phil, we're just a little bit interested in perhaps the viewpoint of certain people. So the Chief Executive, Michael Rapino, talked about how very advanced America is compared to Europe being very primitive, and went on to say that it was a badge of honour that he was able to sell a courtside ticket for basketball for $7,000 rather in this context. But you're horrible if you charge that in the music context. And I just wondered, what is it that you're going to bring to the primitive United Kingdom? What benefits are you going to bring to us?
I think our business here is completely different to America, and I'm not sure in what context that was taken. We are certainly proud of how we put our shows on. Safe, everyone enjoys. It's one of the best job satisfaction feelings you can get, to look at a full arena or a full theatre or a full stadium when the artist is performing. I had the privilege of having Dua Lipa in Wembley Stadium at the weekend. Just 10 years ago, she did her first club show in London.
Do you think we're to see ticket prices as high as $7,000 here in the UK?
I doubt it very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Rupert Huck.
Hi both. Yeah, I just wondered what happened with Beyoncé tickets between 2023 and 2025. So one was the Renaissance tour and then the Cowboy Carter one this year. The ticket prices, we've got the different categories here. Some went up 11%, but some, the premium ones went up 11%, but standing tickets, 100%, 110% hike in between in 24 months.
I think they were premium tickets as well because it was a special area to be in.
They're premium standing.
Yes.
106.
The regular standing was 106, I think you'll find.
Then there was a yo-yoing around because then we found, and this is an example of how dynamic pricing can go down as well as up, because there were fans who paid originally the package of £1,700. Those went down to £550. I mean, how did you determine that the prices for that show were so initially high in the first place? I think it's probably one for Phil. And then it went down by a third, such a dramatic amount.
Prices were set by the artist and her team. I wasn't involved in setting those prices.
So it's the independent woman herself who...
Absolutely.
Determined this, really? I mean, it looks like a sort of level of mispricing. Where did the calculation go wrong here?
I don't know if there was mispriced, but there was definitely expensive standing, but that was a premium ticket with lots of added on features.
Okay. I mean, look, if we follow on this thing that sort of prices can go down as well as up.
They can.
I don't know if you've heard, maybe this would have been one for the supermarket people as well. There's an app called Too Good To Go. My student son uses it a lot. I don't know how many people are familiar with that, but it's sort of restaurant and supermarket food prices that by the end of the day, when they're reaching their sell-by date, you can go on this app and get stuff for tuppence halfpenny. So they use dynamic pricing to decrease the cost of things through an app. Would you be open to doing something similar for when demand falls for concerts?
When demand falls, we actually lose on a quarter of our shows. So it does happen to us, yes, unfortunately, but that's the nature of our business. It's very. And
could that be a way to do it rather than having a load of empty seats to give them to people at a discounted rate through an app? Because then there's some predictability.
Unfortunately, if you're not selling tickets, it doesn't matter what you do, you're not going to sell them. The attraction has not grabbed the attention.
Not something you would entertain?
Not personally, no, but...
I mean, there is an app already called Tickets for Good.
Tickets for Good, I know of them.
Do you work with them? Would you consider working with them?
I think they charge a fee to the buyer.
I think it's a nominal amount, so this, for people who don't know,
pounds or
they
something.
give away free and heavily discounted tickets to NHS workers. I think they did it for the Blur Stadium gigs.
That's a different thing. That's blue light.
Charity workers, teachers, it's not just NHS. Maybe blue light is exclusively health professionals, but this is, they say that they've got 350,000 NHS staff who use their service, as well as from those other sectors, teaching and what have you.
I work with a lot of artists that will actually donate tickets to those sites just to for the benefit of those people.
So that's not something you guys would ever consider working with? Because, again, we've looked at reputation.
Again, the artist would be in control, and we work with the artist to do those things.
And I remember once going to, it was in Hyde Park, Elton John had a throat infection, so they made it free to watch Elvis Costello, and I actually preferred that. I'm not an Elton John person, but I saw it was around on the web, free Elvis Costello concert in Hyde Park.
Onto a question.
Okay. Actually, finally then. Have you considered the way that when these ticket prices get hiked up, it actually has a knock-on effect on everything? So accommodation, we saw in the last session, transport for flying out to things. But it just does feel like fans are being fleeced to see their favourite person.
Can't talk for hotels or airlines in whatever they do with their pricing.
Listen, they're all connected, I feel.
Yeah, well, they could be. I have to stay in the hotels at the venues as well, so I see some of those prices.
Okay, but Ms. Badger, you're saying that the extraordinary price increases that we've seen on two similar concerts 2 years apart, that is not an expression of your own market power, that is down to what? Who has driven this extraordinary increase in pricing?
The artist. And I don't think it's, as I said earlier, I don't think it's a true reflection. I think there could be premium involved in that. So it's very easy to put a slide that shows a difference in price, and actually there is a premium attached to it.
So the artist is dictating to you the price of these tickets?
Artist and team.
Yeah. And when Mr. Parsons was last here, we rehearsed some of the comments that we had heard on the record from artists like Robert Smith and Neil Young, both of who decried the influence of Ticketmaster and Live Nation on ticket pricing. So we were just a bit perplexed with an answer that suggested that the artists were setting a price when there appeared to be quite a lot of evidence of artists complaining about the price.
Yeah.
How do you explain that?
I can't. I don't promote Neil Young nor The Cure, but I'm sure that they would have been involved in their ticket prices.
Okay, so they were perhaps misleading their fans in the statements they were making about Live Nation?
No, I wouldn't. I have no idea. I wouldn't put words in their mouth, not at all.
Ed Sheeran completely cuts out the middleman, and it's all direct.
Sorry?
It just sounds like everyone's saying nothing to do with me, Gov, but I do know Ed Sheeran.
No. Obviously, I'm there to advise. We need to... It's a very, very competitive business. So my ideal is putting the ticket prices up doesn't necessarily help me in any way, shape or form, because they might be prohibitive to people to going. I have to set a guarantee with an artist, and then I have to work on the best way with their team of achieving that guarantee. And the ticket price is then set to achieve that guarantee with them.
So you will advise an artist about what the market will bear when it comes to ticket prices?
No, I would certainly be there to say this is an artist of a similar genre. This is the ticket price that they charged. If you want to look at that, then we can. Or if you want to add something special or take it down, we can.
Matt Weston.
So presumably you just categorise artists.
Sorry, I didn't.
Presumably in your business model you categorise the type of artist and say, yes, you're in that kind of category. And we could
artists define themselves to whatever genre they are.
You said you advise them.
Yes, but whatever categorise they are, it depends on their genre.
You say, right, okay, at that sort of category, we think we could sell this number of tickets at that price.
No, they are looking for a guarantee, and we have to look to see how we can achieve that guarantee.
Well, but you're advising them what you think is realisable.
The team, yes.
Okay.
Some of the expectations may be higher than we would suggest. As I said, it's beneficial not to go as high because we don't want to make it prohibitive.
And can I just check, sorry, Mr. Weston, on the guarantee that you... What does that mean, the guarantee?
Guarantee to the artist.
In terms of total revenue?
Financial.
So they will come with an expectation of
Absolutely.
How much revenue they could take out of a particular tour, say, and that would be a figure that you would advise on?
Well, it's a figure that they would want, and I would try to get to that figure or advise them how to get it, but my competitor is doing the same thing.
Okay.
And might have the edge by giving them more.
Your guarantee to the client, the performer, is about the revenue, total revenue from tickets, but
less
also,
costs.
Understand. But also, you will be saying a guarantee on the number of tickets you will sell?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the only way that we have revenue coming in for a show, is the guarantee, is the ticket revenue.
Understand.
And if I'm... Sorry.
If I could move on. So, question really for you, Andrew Parsons. When we last saw you, which I think was about February time, you were questioned about the business's Ticketmaster's approach to dynamic pricing. And you noted that Ticketmaster, you were categoric in your statement that you said Ticketmaster does not use dynamic pricing, a point which was actually contradicted by, I think, your own website, the statement on your website. Can you just be absolutely clear to the committee today, were you mistaken in your comments, or was the policy as on the website misleading your customers?
I mean, hopefully I would have been clear last time. I'm happy to address it again, of course. I think what we were absolutely clear about is that there is no algorithm, there is no personalised data, there's no automation which is determining ticket prices, that they are set in advance with artists, event organisers, tour and their team in advance, and that they don't change, and that on that basis it was clear to us that the terms and conditions that you reference were providing meaning around this word dynamic, which is complex and difficult, and it was best to get rid of it.
Dynamic, even though you're in this business, you didn't recognise the word dynamic.
Well, we did, and we did determine that it was best to be removing it. I think the important point is that what we did before and what we do since that change to the site that you speak of has not changed. So how we operate has remained constant over that period.
Let's be clear here. You said you do not operate dynamic pricing. Is it slightly weasel words? Because what you're suggesting is you've predetermined what the escalation in price might be in the system, as opposed to it being live and you influencing it on the day or on the moment of sale, that you're interfering with it. You've actually predetermined how that price will ramp up. That's what you do, isn't it?
I mean, you're making something sound very nefarious when what we're talking about is having a set amount of tickets at a price and a set amount of tickets at another price that have been determined by the parties and made that information, given us that information and agreed that information. I don't see that there's anything underhand in that. That's how they work.
Consumer and the average person who'd like to go to a gig who's actually been priced out of the market, sadly, and I'm sure there are many around this table. But on behalf of the consumer, they think that they see a price advertised to go to see whatever gig, then they find actually that is not the price they're going to pay because it's moved into a different price category. That's dynamic pricing, isn't it?
I don't think it is, no. I mean, what we are clear about is that the tickets are set in advance, they're agreed, we don't set those prices, and they don't move during that period of on-sale. They can go down over a period of time, which is why we were clear to continue to use wording that reflects that, that they can move. But as I've said before, that movement is really based, the perception of that movement is based upon cheaper tickets no longer being available and higher priced tickets often being those that are left.
Okay, so the conclusion is that your policy was misleading to the consumer.
The word dynamic was unhelpful, yes.
Well, let me just read you what the purchase policy said when you gave evidence on the 4th of February. It said, some tickets are market priced, and so sale prices may increase or decrease at any time based on demand. This is similar to how airline tickets and hotel rooms are sold and is commonly referred to as dynamic pricing, close quote. That was the purchase policy on your website on the 4th of February when we asked you whether you use dynamic pricing as a business, and you said we can be quite clear that this is not how the Ticketmaster website operates. The evidence that you gave to this committee was in direct contradiction to the purchase policy that was listed on your website on that day. How do you explain the difference?
I thought I just had, but I'm happy to again. The way that we operate was the same before and after. So we don't. Dynamic implies an algorithm. It implies some level of automation that was not in place, and I was quite clear on that then, and I can be clear on that now. It wasn't in place then, and it isn't in place now.
The purchase policy on your website says some tickets are market priced, and so sale prices may increase or decrease at any time based on demand. I mean, to us, that sounds like dynamic pricing.
Well, that's why...
You decided that it should be called dynamic pricing because the sentence went on to say, and is commonly referred to as dynamic pricing. That was your own purchase policy on your own website on the day you told this committee you weren't operating that.
Which I'm agreeing, it was right that we changed because of how it can be misinterpreted.
Or was it misinterpreted or misleading?
I think it can be misinterpreted because dynamic can mean different things to different people. We don't have any automation that's driving that, and so it was right that we updated it on that basis.
Right. So you were worried that consumers were misinterpreting the way that you had described dynamic pricing on your website. You don't think that you were misleading your customers at that point?
I think we were looking to be able to make it be more accurately representing what it was that we were actually doing, and that is what we've done, and that's, I think, right.
Anything further, Mr. Weston?
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay, Mr. Cooper.
Thank you, Chair. Phil, this is to you. I'm struggling a little bit here to recognise this company, because I thought, in my limited knowledge, Ticketmaster were big players, that you're big players in the UK, but you seem to be a plucky start-up fighting your way, sharp elbows in a shark-filled environment where there's lots of other people out there with their elbows out. So what's the situation with these rivals? You've no connection with these rival companies at all. You don't talk to them. There's nothing at all. It's a cutthroat business, and you're out there fighting your end.
Yes. Obviously, I know my competitors personally, but it's a very tough business. Our margins are small for the same as those. They are virtually integrated as well, putting the same look and trying to promote as many shows as they can in the same way that we are. It's very competitive.
But you must be doing all right. Otherwise, you'd move out. You would do something else.
I like to think that we're very good.
And that's all that gives you the edge. Then is simply that you're just you're very, very good at what you do.
Marketing team,
right?
Promoting is about selling tickets. Obviously, it's promoting that artist to sell tickets. We need to have the correct marketing for that, and we're very fortunate, particularly in London. We have a first-class marketing team.
Okay, and you don't have an advantage over your competitors. You talk to your competitors. They're doing the same things as you. You're just better at it. So you don't have anything you do differently that allows you to...
Yes, of course. I'm a good promoter, but so are they. So I'd like to think that that's my edge.
Thank you.
I've been doing it for a long time.
Sure.
Thank you. Sarah Edwards.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to come back, Phil, if I may, to your CEO, Michael Rapino, who... it was alleged by the US Department of Justice to have effectively scolded the OVG group. And they're the co-owners of the UK Co-op Live, for reportedly attempting to compete with you. And there's an email chain between the two CEOs, effectively, where the response is, we never intended to compete with you. So I just wondered whether or not you were intending to bring this type of collusion to the UK market.
No, I have no sight of those emails, so it would be very difficult for me to comment. But the venues, many venues are independently owned or independently run, so there's no collusion between us and the venues.
But other competitors who might be selling tickets, there's nothing that you're doing in terms of saying, well, actually, we don't want you to compete. Because you've got exclusionary contracts with some venues in the US.
We have no exclusive or exclusionary contracts with any venues.
That's just in the US, but not in the UK.
Maybe in the US, but certainly not in the UK.
Okay, thank you.
The OVG CEO wrote in an email to the CEO of Live Nation 2022, we have never promoted without you, won't, I never want to be competitors. I mean, that looks like market collusion between two firms, or you could call it cooperation if you were being generous. What's the relationship with OVG in this country? Is there that kind of familiarity or not?
Obviously, they run the Co-op Live. I put a lot of shows into the Co-op Live, so I know the management, but I put a lot of shows into the O2, and that's AEG, and I know those guys. Independent run in Manchester as well. The AO Arena is ASM. There's lots of different companies running the venues, and obviously I've been doing promoting for a very long time, so I have a relationship with everyone, but no collusion. I'm not happy with their rents, and I tell them every time.
Mm-hmm. Good. Barney Maynard?
Dealing with another entity, so SJM Concerts, what's your relationship with them?
I'd say that it's good. Simon Moran is the owner of SJM. He's probably the biggest independent promoter in the world, I would say. Certainly in Europe.
So are you partners or are you competitors? Or
No, we're competitors.
Okay, so how many companies do you co-own with SJM?
Oh, I'm not privy to that information. I don't think there's any promoting companies that we work together on. Maybe there is a DF in Scotland, but that's the only one that I know of.
Really?
On the promoting side.
And any other sides?
Venues, you mean, or
you name it? Anything?
Oh, I'm not a party to that.
I'll give you a hand. So there's DF Concerts. Moran holds a 20% stake. There's a stake in Boomtown Festival, where you, Gaiety and SJM each hold stakes. There's Camp Festival. There's V Festival. There's Academy Music Group.
I don't think V Festival exists.
LN Gaiety purchase includes stakes from founders, including Simon Moran, making them co-owners. That's what I've got. I mean,
yeah, but V Festival disappeared quite a while ago, unless I'm mistaken.
Okay. The rest of it. Fine. What about? So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 here. I mean, what's weird about this is you say that you're competitors, but then you co-own a whole load of companies together. Yeah, I mean, you can't really say I co-own something together, but we're competing.
Why?
Because it doesn't work that way.
Oh, you're talking about venues. I compete with him as far as promoting is concerned.
Again, it just comes back to, the word vampire squid's going through my head, but maybe octopus is better, but it's just the wraparound.
Seems to be a good word for you.
Yeah, well, it seems to be a good analogy for what's going on here.
I don't recognise it. As I said before, I'm a promoter. Simon is a competitor, unless we're working together at the behest of the agent or the manager.
Phil, you say you're a promoter, but Live Nation manages artists, it manages festivals, it manages venues, it sells tickets, and it does it more so than anybody else in the country. So you're saying, oh, I'm a promoter, but the reality is you're part of an enormous corporate group that wraps itself around the consumer in all these different ways.
We are vertical integration, as are most of our competitors.
Except you're a lot bigger than your competitors.
That's I'd like to see all these figures that say that we are bigger. We work very hard, but
it's all on the web.
Oh, look.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, look, thank you very much. I think we've got some quite different views about what might constitute substantial market power. We've obviously had some difficulties getting some of the pricing information, so we look forward to an exchange of correspondence on that. I think we've finally nailed what is and what isn't going on when it comes to dynamic pricing. Let me just close off by asking, because this has been based on hearsay evidence to us, have employees of the Live Nation Group ever threatened artists, promoters or venue operators, or applied anything that those artists may interpret as pressure in order to change their behaviour? Mr. Bowdry.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, Mr. Parsons.
Never threatened anybody.
I think I was pretty clear at the outset that the evidence to me is very clear that the ticketing market is incredibly competitive. The margins reflect that. The margins relative to other marketplaces that charge far higher commissions support that. The fact that our retained amount declined over 10 years, all of these things to me make it abundant, and the fact that of the major buildings within the UK that we spoke about, that we provide services to a minority of them, suggests to me that it's incredibly clear that it's a very, very vibrant, competitive marketplace for ticketing every single day.